We are seeing a divergence here in crypto markets. Bitcoin bouncing back a bit today. It had dropped as low as 56,000, but it's had a really...
I don't think those words are very responsible. First of all, you can't close Bitcoin or the blockchain. It's like you'd have to close the internet.
Yeah. But I don't think ETH stops going up. The whole space is going up 100x over the next 10 years. I first wrote a paper on the stock to flow of Bitcoin in 2013 versus gold. So I understand that. And when Plan B did it properly, because he's a much smarter guy than me, I intuitively understand what he was doing. And I thought it was genius. And I still think it gives us a good framework. We all know that nothing works perfectly, but it gives us a very good framework of understanding. I think it's also showing essentially Metcalfe's law within that. I have been using the 2013 Bitcoin chart for a year and a half now. It's worked very well. I also know that those things fail just when you expect them the most to work.
Yeah.
But it gives me conviction. So I'm looking at the chart pattern. I'm looking at the flow from all the institutions I'm seeing. That chart pattern from 2013, it's backed up by the ETH chart pattern versus Bitcoin. That's going to give me about the most conviction. I only saw the gold chart recently. Paul Tudor Jones had alluded to it before. I saw the gold chart recently, and it's like, these are all crowd-based behavioral patterns that are playing out. So I do think we get a big run into end of year, and we will probably start to see a sell-off early Jan or late Dec because people are expecting something, and I think it will be wholeheartedly wrong. Because I see nothing but a wall of money coming in. I also think that the ETH staking cycle has changed the structure of markets. It may even be more dominant eventually than the Bitcoin halving cycle. When most people think they've figured it out, it all changes. It happens endlessly. So I'm thinking, what is the path of most pain? Because every person now thinks, well, what I'll do is I'll reduce my exposure in December, I'll keep hold of some, and then I'll buy it back at the bottom when it's down 80%. I know how to do this. So the likelihood is it doesn't go down that far. And it repeats what we saw this year, which was big run, decent sized sell-off, takes 6 months before it takes out the high, screams for a new high again. Everyone panics in, sells off again, and it keeps going up in this jagged pattern to new highs because we're now at the teeth of the adoption curve.
Yeah.
Central bank digital currencies, institutions, Twitter, Facebook, everybody's starting to see the adoption. So I think it's going to change the structure, and it's going to be a bit harder because we had this nice, neat narrative that I think is going to fall apart. Now, 1 billion people from here, we can't get our heads around it.
Yeah.
But that's why I don't think we can have the 80% fall. No. I don't, because if it was going to happen, it would have happened last year. If you shut down the entire global economy for 6 months and we avoided the big reset by the trick of monetary debasement, then there is no reset that can happen. It just simply, they have made the decision they cannot allow the collateral layer to go bust. You do that by debasing your currency. The collateral layer is equities, credit, bonds, real estate. So they are not, it is verboten now to allow those to go down.
Nice word.
So the answer is printing of more money. So what we're seeing is, I think, the actual outcome, which is a migration to this new digital world. So as we all migrate to what we now perceive as, okay, this world of digital assets is a safer place for our savings, investments, and place to build our businesses, then we will migrate over time. I'm using base case probabilities, no certainties. I still think ETH finishes this year closer to 15,000 than to 10,000.
Yeah.
Just by the nature of what is actually going on right now and the chart patterns and, the people who are coming into the space. The small probability upside is that it hits 40,000 by the summer. That's because of the staking cycle and how the charts look, and using the log chart, extending it forwards, and a number of things give me that. It's not my base case. My base case would be 20,000 ETH by March at the latest. I think the ratio is changing, and it's going to go to something significantly different than, so if it's 12 now, it probably goes to 7, 6. So I think that's what that ETH Bitcoin chart is telling me, and we'll readjust again, and Bitcoin will become the larger asset. I think the flippening has not a high probability, a decent probability. ETH's dominance, like Bitcoin's dominance, will fall over time because new technology comes into the space and they solve different problems, and they have different orders of centralization versus decentralization as trade-offs. So the Bitcoin dominance is going to diminish over time. ETH dominance will diminish over time. Sol's dominance versus others will diminish over time because this space is changing in structure. So I don't have an issue with that. I'm not an ETH person. I'm just like, this is the best horse to back, best risk-adjusted return. I'm a crypto maximalist. I totally believe that this is the future of all digital value. My job is to select which horse to back and when. My job is not to come at this with a philosophy of it can only be one. This is not Highlander here. We're in the investment business, and we're also in the business of changing the world's business models and distributing wealth and all of that stuff. So let it play out how it plays out. And I think that Solana will outperform ETH in this cycle. And I think that Terra will outperform ETH. So why don't I have all my money in those? Because I have less certainty, because the network effects are less pronounced. So therefore, I have to have a smaller bet.
Yep, exactly.
But I don't think ETH stops going up. The whole space is going up 100x over the next 10 years. I just think it's going to be a blend. I really think that people are trying to frame it too much about what we understand from the internet and less about what we understand from internet businesses, where there's millions of businesses solving different problems for different people in different ways. Not all cloud storage went to Amazon. In fact, Microsoft is gigantic and Google is gigantic. There's so many different ways that I just don't think of the world in those terms. I did at first think of the world as, is Bitcoin the base layer? I'm just not even sure that's right anymore. It could be, and I'm open to that possibility. Again, I'm not anti-Bitcoin in any way, but I think Solana plays a role. Could it be larger than ETH over time? Potentially. Could there be a flippening? Possibly. It depends what people need the network for. And if the fees don't get resolved and people want more speed because we want different transactions, maybe Sol. But is Sol fast enough to solve the securities industry needs? Because they're all going on blockchain. Well, then you've got something like Internet Computer, which everybody hates, but it's bloody fast, but it's more centralized. People frame it so much in terms of Bitcoin and the ultimate decentralized asset. Yes, that's Bitcoin's USP. Nothing else is Bitcoin. So can the Internet Computer's super fast blockchain, I don't even own it. So, there's a lot of haters out there. I don't own it, but I observe that they're building something pretty unique.
Yeah.
Could that play a big role? Could that be the ETH of the next cycle? Could be. It could also not. It could fail. I don't know. It's getting some network effects.